The rain had not stopped for hours. It fell in a quiet, steady rhythm as you walked along the narrow mountain path, your clothes heavy, your steps slow. The mud clung to your feet as if the earth itself did not want to let you move forward. And still you kept going. Why is it so hard to let go of something that is already gone? You carry it everywhere, in your thoughts, in your silence, in the way your shoulders tighten when a memory returns without warning. You tell yourself it happened long ago, yet it feels as if it is still happening again and again inside your mind. Put it down. The voice came suddenly, breaking through the sound of the rain. You looked up and saw an old monk standing under a tree, completely still, as if the storm had no power over him. His robes were damp, yet his face was calm. You frowned. Put what down? He looked at you, not with judgment, but with quiet understanding. What you are carrying? You glanced at your hands. They were empty, yet something inside you felt heavier than anything you had ever held. There was a time when things were different, before the regret, before the mistake, before the moment you wished you could erase. Back then, your steps felt lighter. Your thoughts were not filled with what-ifs and why did I now? Everything feels like a weight. The monk began to walk slowly along the same path. Without thinking, you followed him, not because you trusted him, but because something in his presence felt steady. What if I can't? You asked. He did not turn around. Then you will keep walking like this forever. The words settled deep inside you. You remember the exact moment it all changed. The words you said, the decision you made, or maybe the chance you didn't take. It replays in your mind like a scene that refuses to end. You try to move forward, but your past pulls you back, whispering that you should have done better. So you punish yourself. You hold on to it, as if carrying the pain is a way to fix what already happened. But what if it is? The path grew steeper. The rain softened, but the fog thickened, wrapping around you like a quiet barrier. You could barely see a few steps ahead. This is what your mind does, the monk said. It creates fog from memories. You felt something shift, but the past is real. Yes, he said gently, but it is not alive. His words confused you. How could something that feels so real not be alive? You keep feeding it, he continued. Every time you replay it, every time you wish it was different, you give it energy, you keep it breathing. You stopped walking. A strange silence filled your chest. For the first time, you were not arguing with your thoughts. You were listening. If I stop thinking about it, does that mean it didn't matter? You asked. The monk finally turned toward you. His eyes were soft, yet clear. It mattered, it taught you, but it does not need to control you. You stood there, unsure of what to say. Because deep down, you knew he was right. The past had already taken enough from you, yet you were still giving it more. There is a moment in every journey where you must decide, not whether the past was fair, not whether it hurt, but whether you will keep carrying it. And most people never realize that this decision is theirs. The rain stopped completely. The air felt lighter, yet your body still felt heavy. Come, the monk said, continuing forward. You hesitated, then followed again. As you walked, you noticed something strange. The path ahead was no longer as difficult as before. It was still uneven, still narrow, but something inside you had changed. Or maybe something had started to. Tell me, the monk said after a while, if you were holding a burning coal, would you keep holding it just because you picked it up? You shook your head immediately. Of course not, I would drop it. Then why do you hold on to pain like it is something you must keep? The question hit you harder than anything else, because you had never thought of it that way. You always believed letting go meant forgetting, or ignoring, or pretending it never happened. But now, for the first time, you saw it differently. Letting go is not about denial. It is about release. The wind moved gently through the trees, carrying away the last traces of the storm. And in that quiet moment, you realized something simple, yet powerful. You were not stuck because of the past. You were stuck because you refused to put it down. And maybe, just maybe, you don't have to carry it anymore. You're still holding it. The monk's voice was calm, but it felt like it saw through everything. You looked at him, slightly frustrated this time. I told you, I'm not holding anything. He stepped closer, then gently tapped your chest with 2 fingers. Then why does it still hurt? You had no answer, because it did hurt. Not in a way that others could see, but in a way that never fully left. A quiet ache that followed you into your mornings and stayed with you at night. You lowered your gaze. I don't know how to stop. The monk nodded, as if this was the only honest answer he had been waiting for. Good, he said. Now we can begin. What if the pain you carry is not because of what happened, but because of what you keep telling yourself about it? You frowned slightly as that thought formed in your mind, because every time you remembered the past, it came with words. I failed. I ruined everything. I should have known better. Those words felt true. They felt justified, but you had never stopped to question them. The monk began walking again, and you followed, more slowly this time. Your mind is like a storyteller, he said, but it is not always telling the truth. It tells stories based on fear, guilt, and habit. You listened carefully. It takes one moment, he continued, and turns it into a lifetime sentence. A cold realization moved through you, because that is exactly what had happened. One mistake, and you turned it into your identity. One failure, and you made it your definition. You never saw it as something that happened. You saw it as something that became you. The air felt different now, not lighter, but clearer, like a fog that was slowly beginning to lift. Close your eyes, the monk said. You hesitated for a second, then did. Bring the memory back, he said softly, the one you keep running from. Immediately it appeared, clear, sharp, uncomfortable. Your chest tightened. Now, he continued, look at it without adding words. You tried. At first, it felt impossible. Because your mind kept jumping in, adding meaning, adding blame, adding emotion. But slowly something shifted. You saw the moment, just the moment, not the story around it, not the judgment, just what happened. And for the first time it felt smaller, not meaningless, but not as overwhelming as before. Do you see? The monk asked. You opened your eyes, breathing slightly deeper. Yes, you whispered. He nodded. You suffer more from your interpretation than from the moment itself. That truth settled deep inside you because it explained everything. You were not just carrying the past. You were carrying the story you built around it. Before this journey, you believed your pain was permanent, that it was something you had to live with forever, that letting go meant losing a part of yourself. But now, something was changing. You were beginning to see space between you and your thoughts. Pain is natural, the monk said, but suffering is created. You looked at him. So I chose this, not at first, he replied, but you continued choosing it every day without realizing. That was hard to accept, because it meant responsibility. It meant that you were not just a victim of your past, you were also a participant in your present suffering. The path ahead opened into a small clearing. The rain had left drops hanging on the leaves, shining softly in the fading light. The monk sat down on a stone and motioned for you to sit as well. You did. Tell me, he said, how long have you been carrying this? You thought about it. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, maybe even longer. Too long, you said quietly. He smiled, not in amusement, but in understanding. Then why not put it down now? You let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped inside you for a long time. Because I'm afraid, you admitted. Afraid of what? You paused, then the answer came. If I let it go, what will I have left? The monk leaned slightly forward. You will have yourself. That answer surprised you, because somewhere along the way you had lost that. You became the mistake, you became the regret, you became the past, and without it, you didn't know who you were. The wind moved gently through the clearing, carrying a sense of quiet change. Letting go is not losing, the monk said. It is returning. You sat there letting those words sink in, returning to what? To who you were before the weight, to who you are without the story, to who you can still become. And for the first time, that idea did not feel distant. It felt possible, not easy, but possible. The monk stood up, looking toward the path ahead. This is where most people stop, he said. They understand, but they do not act. You slowly stood as well. Your body still felt the weight, but it was different now, less invisible, more noticeable. Which meant maybe it could be released. You have seen the truth, the monk continued. Now you must choose what to do with it. You looked down at your hands again, still empty, and yet, not for long, drop it. The monk's words were not loud, but they carried a weight that stopped you completely. You stood there, looking at your empty hands again, but this time it felt different. You could almost sense it, the thing you had been holding for so long. Not something you could see, but something you could feel, tight, heavy, familiar. I don't know how, you said quietly. The monk stepped closer, his presence calm but firm, then stopped trying to drop it all at once. You looked at him confused. Release it piece by piece. You took a slow breath. What if letting go isn't one big moment, but a series of small decisions? The thought settled into your mind gently, but it changed everything. Because you had been waiting for a single moment, a sudden feeling, a clear signal, a perfect time. But maybe that moment never comes. Maybe letting go is something you practice. Right here, right now, you closed your eyes again, bringing back the memory. This time, it did not hit you as hard. It was still there, but it felt slightly distant, like a sound fading into the background. Start with one thing, the monk said, one belief you are ready to release. You listened to your thoughts. I failed. That was the loudest one. You held on to it for so long that it felt like truth, but now you questioned it. Did you fail, or did something simply not work out the way you expected? The difference was small, but powerful. I made a mistake, you said slowly. The moment you said it, something shifted, not completely, not perfectly, but enough. The weight changed. It loosened just a little, the monk nodded. Again, you swallowed. I ruined everything. That one felt heavier because it carried more pain, more blame. You hesitated, then you tried again. I affected something, but not everything. Your voice was uncertain but honest, and once again something softened. You opened your eyes. The world around you looked the same. The trees, the path, the fading light, but inside something was moving. Before this moment, your thoughts controlled you. They came without warning, without question, and you accepted them as truth. Now you were starting to see them for what they were, just thoughts, not commands, not identity, just passing ideas. You are not your past, the monk said. You are the one observing it. You stood there letting that sink in, because if that was true, then everything could change. The path ahead no longer felt like something you had to force yourself through. It felt like something you could walk freely. Take a step, the monk said. You did. And for the first time, it did not feel heavy, not completely light, but lighter, enough to notice, enough to continue. The wind carried a fresh scent through the trees, and the sky began to clear. The storm was gone now, but more importantly, something inside you was clearing too. Most people wait, the monk said as you walked. They wait for closure, they wait for time to heal them, they wait for someone to fix what they feel. You listened carefully, but healing does not come from waiting, he continued. It comes from choosing. That word stayed with you, choosing, not once, but again and again, every time the memory returns, every time the old story tries to take over, every time you feel that familiar weight, you choose to see it differently, to speak to yourself differently, to let it pass instead of holding it. This is how you let go, not by force, but by awareness, not by forgetting, but by understanding. You reached the end of the path, where the trees opened into a wide view of the valley below. The air felt fresh, and the horizon stretched far beyond what you could see. You stopped there, taking it in. This is your life, the monk said, standing beside you, wide, open, still waiting for you. You felt something rise in your chest, not pain, not regret, something else. Possibility, all this time, you said slowly. I thought my past was holding me back. The monk remained silent. But it was me, you continued. I was holding on to it. He nodded gently. And now, he asked. You took a deep breath. Then for the first time, you answered without hesitation. Now I let it go. There was no dramatic moment, no sudden change in the world around you, but inside something released, not everything, but enough. Enough to move forward, enough to begin again. You turned to thank the monk. But he was already walking away. No goodbye, no final lesson, because he had already given it. And now it was yours to live. So you stand here at the edge of your own path, not free from the past, but no longer controlled by it. And the next step. That is yours.